Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's now the 28th of May 2017, and I just finished listening to The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which is the first episode of the audio drama adaptation of the never produced script for Doctor Who, Farewell, Great Macedon. Now, The Hanging Gardens of Babylon is, much like many other episodes, a setup episode. But what's odd is that this one actually sets up it's setting up the main thrust of the story, which is, of course, the conspiracy behind the murder of Alexander the Great. All done with just three actors: William Russell, Carol Ann Ford, and John Dorney, who's playing Ian, Susan, and the titular Alexander the Great, respectively. Now, what's amazing is that Big Finish has made this rather small cast of characters work very, very well together, as The Hanging Gardens of Babylon really just sort of feels like an opening episode from the show in the 60s, and it emulates just the way things would happen. Plus, it's a bit longer. Like, all these episodes are a bit longer than your standard 25-minute TV episodes, simply because they aren't restricted to that format, and because they have to have narration in there to link things. It feels very much like a Lost episode soundtrack narrated by Carol Ann Ford and William Russell, and I quite enjoy that. Heck, a lot of this episode really has the Doctor being all haha, science. Alexander the Great being, oh, no one can kill me, and Barbara having her, it's history, I don't want to change this moment, and, it works. It works very well as a story, and it opens up the audio drama to a very, very good conspiracy. And, of course, though what's nice about the cliffhanger is it's much like the end of part one of the Aztecs, you have a cliffhanger that is much more subdued, much more characters. We're going to do this, and that'll be the threat, which is, we're going to blame the TARDIS team on the death of Alexander the Great, because there's this whole prophecy that Alexander's going to die, even though, prophecy's kind of bull, and prophecy really shouldn't happen, but, it's a good way to start. I quite enjoyed it. The acting is perfect. John Dorney does an excellent job as Alexander the Great, and I think it's Nigel Robinson it's Nigel Robinson who did the adaptation, and Robinson did an excellent job at adapting this script into an audio format. I really can't wait to see how this one goes, because this is probably the best. I mean, if this is the best episode of Doctor Who, most definitely since the end of the Aztecs, what was that, 2 weeks ago? So I'm gonna have to give The Hanging Gardens of Babylon a full 10 out of 10 for opening up the story in a really, really good manner, with a lot of political intrigue, and it feels like we're in for some really good political drama for over the next 5 episodes. Alright, it is now the 29th of May 2017, and I just finished listening to the second episode of Farewell, Great Macedon, O Son, My Son, which, much like the first episode, is just plain really good. It keeps the interest in the story with Alexander the Great going high and strong, while it keeps the political intrigue of the conspirators just moving forward, and it ends with the first death, as the title refers to Alexander's surrogate father dying at a feast because he's drunk, and, well, tides are about to turn, it seems like, onto the TARDIS crew, as they're probably going to be the ones blamed for the murder, even though they had absolutely nothing to do with it. It's really a great way, sort of, to get the story really to go and have its, basically it has a way to keep everything moving and just sort of get everything going into one way. Well, and of course the acting stays at the caliber. I think that's mainly because this was recorded on the same day as episode 1, so there isn't much time in between any of these episodes really to change any acting prowess. I mean, again, there are only 3 cast members, so there isn't too much I can say on the acting. Other than that, it's really good, and you should most definitely try to give this one a listen if you can, because this episode is keeping the story going, and that's really the only thing that I can ask it to do, because we have what essentially amounts to some really good actors doing acting as they would, and just sort of letting everything flow naturally from one scene to the next. And we just sort of have that being the way where the story is going to progress until we eventually get to a conclusion, which I hope the tension ramps up a bit more, because I don't know if it can actually sustain this for another 4 episodes. But as it is now, it's really good. The episode is well worth looking into just to give it a listen, and that's really all I can. That's really all I can say about it. It's just a good episode. So I think I'm gonna keep up with the same score as Oh Son, My Son, getting a total of 10 out of 10. And I'll be back tomorrow with the third episode. Right, so we have the third episode, which is A Man Must Die, and it's all about how the second in succession to Alexander the Great, the Indian Calanus, dies despite the Doctor deciding to break all laws of time travel and try and save him with a blood transfusion. The Doctor really has Ian try to get all of Alexander's men's blood type, and they try to give the man a blood transfusion, that's the thrust of this episode, and it is brilliant. I can't help but adore this episode just for doing such a... I don't want to call it quite brave, because I don't know if it's really brave, but doing something for a story that really... that it really shows that the Doctor is ready to interfere. At this point, he is more the character, closer to the character that we know. Sure, he's still abrasive to Ian, the Barber, and Susan, and you have the conspirators just sort of whispering into Alexander's ear that, no, you can't trust these people. They're the ones killing your men. They won't help them. They're gonna die. They're gonna make everybody you love die. And it's just this amazing sort of political drama that really unfolds here. I also have to say that John Dorney's Alexander is excellent, as he is going into these depths of almost madness because he's starting to lose his friends. His wife is far off, and she's not here yet. He is just trying to make everything work, even though he really can't, because everything's starting to fall apart around him. And I think that the portrayal by John Dorney is just an excellent way to make the character work, and just make the character have his own sort of a way about him that keeps him going forward. It's excellent, and William Russell and Caroline Ford also do a really good job at just sort of getting the story across in this audiobook format. It is really good. So yeah, I think A Man Must Die for the third episode in a row, which we're having a pretty good streak of good episodes with these audios with. It gets a 10 out of 10. Right, so it's the 31st of May 2017, and I just finished listening to The World Lies Dead at Your Feet, aka the fourth episode of Farewell Great Macedon, and the one that really sorts of... Again, these episodes, they keep giving you this reaction that that everything's gonna fall apart, and it's like watching a train crash, and you can't take your eyes away, and not in a bad way, because it's genuinely a good dramatic episode, as you know Alexander the Great is going to die here, and there's nothing that he can do to save himself, which is really good, just to have as the premise of the episode. And I can't help but just watch and enjoy exactly how this has been just sort of developing over the course of the story. This time, you have Hephaestion's murder, which is... The Doctor has finished the repairs to the TARDIS because the TARDIS was broken. They couldn't get back in. And Hephaestion was supposed to go get gifts, but then he was captured by the conspirators, and a black asp, which is a snake that's very poisonous, is used to kill him, and effectively it worked. It does it. It kills him. It bites him, and he tries to go and find the Doctor to try to save him, but then he dies. It's really quite sad. And of course, the big cliffhanger is the TARDIS team are the ones that are revealed to be the ones that are doing these murders, even though we know that isn't the case. They know it's the case. It's just to kind of to convince Alexander, who's played in this rage. He's in a rage of emotions just because he's losing everybody he cares about, which you can't imagine how hard that is, just for someone to be having all their emotions just sort of manipulated and having everybody be against them, which is it's excellent. The direction in particular is an excellent way of portraying it on audio, because it's all done just through John Dorney doing his own acting and working through that way. So yeah, I have to, and again, the title "The World Lies at Your Feet" is what he says at with Hephaestion dying. So yeah, that's essentially where I can really leave it, because again, that is sort of how it goes, really. Yeah, that's all I have to say, is that that's how it goes, and everything should be, moving towards this big conclusion, and this is really the turning point of the story. We've had our 4 episodes of them slowly dying. I think we have 2 more, and they're going to be done, and it's going to be the final person dying, and then Alexander's actual death before the story ends. I guarantee you. And if it keeps up, we could be going towards a perfect score, because The World Lies at Your Feet, for the 4th episode in a row, has to get a 10 out of 10. Alright, so I'm not going to do this one for very long, but it's the 1st of June, 2017. I just finished watching In the Arena, which is really an episode focused on Ian and the Doctor, as they both have to go through trials to try to prove their innocence. The Doctor has to walk on coals, which is a sequence that is hilarious and is, of course, used to teach the science of using your own sweat to ward off fire. Basically, the Doctor, he makes his feet all sweaty, so it's totally fine. He can walk on the coals fine, which is a really clever way of doing it. Well, Ian has to wrestle a bunch of people to win the Laurel Crown, which is a crown that Alexander's men are competing for, and honestly, it's really good. The episode is really good. And then you have actually the TARDIS team working out just how everyone else has been murdered, and realize, hey, Alexander's next. But they can't do that because Ian has to face Lucas, one of the conspirators. And that's where we end, and it's a great way to keep the episode going in its penultimate part. So again, because I don't have too much time to talk about this, I'll give In the Arena a 10 out of 10 again for being perfect and really showing how everything works out pretty well. Alright, so it is the 2nd of June, I think. Yeah, the 2nd of June, 2017. And I just finished listening to Farewell Great Macedon, the final episode of Farewell Great Macedon, which keeps up the streak of perfect episodes, as this one does what the title implies. It has Alexander the Great being poisoned and slowly dying, as the Doctor, Ian, and Barbara and Susan try to save him, because Ian took the Hippocratic Oath, so he kind of is morally obligated to do so, which is interesting. And all the conspiracies are unraveled, but all's not well, as most of the conspirators actually get away scot-free, and it really ends in fighting over who's going to keep the kingdom. Everything just sort of ends in turmoil. Oddly enough, a lot of this episode is focused on developing how they're going to make a iron lung for the king, which he then discards after discovering that it takes 3,000 years for his ideas of peace and unity really to take hold, which it's this disheartening portion of the story that really gets to you, because you see the idea of, can't we just get along, and it doesn't happen. It only takes World War II for that really to take root, and you really think that that's totally sunk root today? Who knows? But I'm not going to get philosophical on this, because it's not as important. No, what's important is that this episode is perfect. Each story has a very, very simple... Each episode has a very simple plot, and you think it would get boring, but none of them do. So I'm gonna give Farewell. No, and everything just sort of goes together quite well. So you have everything simple, and it works. So I'm gonna give Farewell Great Macedon as episode 6 a 10 out of 10. Now, of course, averaging that out, that makes Farewell Great Macedon the best William Hartnell story so far, with a perfect 10 out of 10 score. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you actually tomorrow when we do the second part of Season 1B with the Fragile Yellow Arc of Fragrance, which is also included in the box set with Farewell Great Macedon, and takes place chronologically after. Until then, leave a like and a comment if you agreed with me, disagreed with me, if I made you want to watch this story, and subscribe. Sorry this was so short. It was just a matter of not having too much to talk about because I didn't want to give too much away.